The surest way, I think, that we can have better conversations at least, is that we need to separate blackness a bit. Other communities are not based on that. What they have a foundation of shared values, shared custom, not shared struggle. And that is what the black community, that's one of the main attributes of it. And I don't think that is very productive.
Hello everyone, my name is Rogan and this is Bahamian Gyal. On my platform I do social commentary and reaction videos. I encourage my audience to have private conversations in public. My guest today is Ada Akpala. She's a writer, commentator. She's also the head of content for the Equiano project, which is a debate, discussion, and ideas forum. There you'll find her weighing in on subjects related to race and identity. So it is a pleasure to have Ada in studio today. This is part 2 of a conversation that we started last week, and if you have not watched that video as yet, be sure to click up here. With that being said, let's continue with the conversation.
The surest way, I think, that we can have better conversations at least, is that we need to separate blackness a bit. Because actually, even if there's a so-called community, which I've spoken at length why I don't think there is, logically, I don't think there is. I think it's very forced, and we try to force it, and the only way the black community seems to be strong is when it's coming together against some kind of injustice, and I don't actually think that's what builds a community. So I'm not convinced there is a so-called black community. It's very forced, and that's why there are a lot of issues, because no one knows who they should be in solidarity with, because, and this is my main point, we all have different values, different subcultures, different histories, right? So we need what's affecting black Caribbeans in Caribbean is not affecting black Caribbeans in the UK and the US. And so this whole thing of the black community needs to go, because actually there isn't actually another community, like, even though they say there is, but there isn't a white community, there isn't a brown community.
I would push back a little bit on that, because I do see people who talk about the Italian community or the Irish community. But you're making my point.
That's not the white community. That's my point.
That's true. It's not white. It's not white. It's not white, but
But the Italian community will have a different experience to the Irish community. It's not one community.
That's true.
It just isn't. True. I don't eat the same food as someone from the Caribbean. I don't. I have different meals. I have different ideas, different values, different cultural traditions. So I'm not saying that if people need that, that's fine. But I'm saying we will not address the real issues facing the so-called black community if we don't get specific. Black Caribbeans are 3-4 times likely to be excluded from school than black Africans. That's not a race issue. If a subgroup within that race, we're not going to find those solutions. And I think we're hiding behind each other's, issues and problems, and we're not addressing what actually is wrong, in my opinion. And they have tried to do that a little bit here in the UK to make it a little bit more specific. But, it's a bit slow.
But in making it specific, do we run the danger of, because we always talk about, let me just say this, in the past few years, I've seen a lot of people talking about, I don't know if you're familiar with like ADOS and FBA, Foundational Black Americans, that sort of thing, where they're like, oh, let's go over here and do our own thing. The reason why I don't really care for those two organizations is because I feel like while the intention might be good, the delivery and the execution is not, because it just seems like they're very racist or xenophobic, and I don't really care for that too much. But in getting specific for each group, do we run the risk of, I feel like there is more strength in numbers rather than just kind of saying, you go your way, you do your thing because you have your own interests, you go your way because you have separate interests from me, and just going about it that way.
I agree in a way, but not really, because I don't believe we have the same issues. I don't believe we have the same issues. And that's another thing that I really want people to understand. There are more disparities within ethnic minority groups than between. like I've mentioned a few times, the differences are wider than the so-called white, non-white disparity measurements. That is where we need to be looking at, because that is going to so-called debunk this idea that systemic racism is your biggest enemy. And, you know, I don't want to talk about things like enemy or you have to beat the system, because it's also not a thing of blaming the people who are in certain situations, but it's a thing of understanding. You know, I've been in this country for a very long time, and in my younger years, I was told a lot of times that I would struggle in this country because of my race. I did not. And I did not because, as I mentioned, where I came from, my upbringing, my family, but there are some people who had what I have and still believe that racism is the reason why they got a no at a job, not knowing that other people from other races also get no. So, you know, I am going to stand by what I say, that actually we don't have all the same issues. If you want to tell me that the only issue we have shared is because someone may not like our skin color, our hair, or you know, that's not enough for me to have a community. Which is what I'm trying to say. Other communities are not based on that.
Sure.
They have a foundation of shared values, shared custom, not shared struggle. And that is what the Black community, that's one of the main attributes of it. And I don't think that is very productive.
You know, you mentioned, you know, your upbringing as a Nigerian woman. I want to ask, what is it that makes, or rather, what is it about Nigerians that makes them so exceptional? Because here in the U.S., you have Nigerian Americans who are among the most successful immigrant groups. And I want to read something to you. This is from the Migration Policy Institute, which is based in Washington, by the way. They said Nigerians in the U.S. are the most educated immigrant group, with 61% holding at least a bachelor's degree, compared with 31% of the total foreign-born population and 32% of the U.S.-born population. And this was a report that was put out back in 2019. I tried to find something a little bit more recent, but this was 2019. I want to know what it is about their upbringing that really does lend to being excellent at what they do. They're excellent at their craft. But I also want to quickly say that it's important to understand a lot of the immigrants from Nigeria who come into the United States, they were filtered in. Unless they were here for humanitarian reasons, they applied to come in for visas or permanent residency or whatnot. And a lot of them, in order to get into this country, had to have a certain education. They either had to have a bachelor's or an advanced degree to get into the country. And so sometimes it can skew the numbers where, yes, they are exceptional, but that's because you're getting the creme de la creme from Nigeria coming into the United States. But I just wanted to go back to your upbringing because it's something that I see. I have friends who are married to Nigerians, and it just seems like they're always very business minded. They're very focused on studies. Nigerian parents seem to be focused on you go to school, you get an education, you become a doctor or a lawyer or something that's going to make you money in the long run. You know, so where does that come from? And we see it in subsequent generations as well.
Yeah, I think it's definitely what I mentioned earlier, and it's that, you know, environment we have where it's like you do or die. But it's also that we take, from what I saw, we take pride in being the best. We take pride in succeeding, right? We take pride in, you know, not just flaunting superficially, you know, possessions and things like that, but, you know, mental capability and intelligence. We want to be the one who knows the right thing, and we take pride in that. And, you know, before I continue, I do want to say that there are disparities as well within the, you know, Nigerian different tribes, you know, and how they approach like economics and family and so on. And this is why I'm always trying to emphasize that, you know, there are always disparities, even within, there are disparities within families, for goodness sake. Not everyone is equal. So we always have to bear that in mind. But yeah, definitely, I think, you know, we especially, you know, my tribe, we're very, you know, focused on making our families proud as well. And I think that's one thing that's missing, you know, in the Western world. I think people don't have anyone that they're accountable to anymore. It's just like, because, for example, I couldn't imagine. I you know, messed about a little bit when I was a young teenager, but there was always something at the back of my mind of, there's someone I'm going to go home to that I'm going to have to answer to, right? And sadly, when you don't have that, you know, that stability, whether it's from your father or from your mother, then there's no one that you have to, there's no authority that you have to answer to. And we're very deliberate in how we bring, you know, up our children and things like that. So yeah, I think that's what makes that difference.
Yeah. You once said that the media is the number one enemy of humanity. Do you still believe that? And what did you mean by that? I thought it was a very strong statement on, girl, I've been watching you for a long time.
A tweet?
No, it wasn't a tweet. I'm not even on Twitter because it's just so toxic. I'm not on Twitter. So this was, I watched a YouTube video.
Yeah.
I'm more of a YouTube girl. So you were doing an interview and you said you were just talking about social media and how corrupt it is and how it plays such an important role or an integral role in dividing people. And you were like, really and truly, it's the number one enemy of humanity.
Well, I do believe, I was actually thinking about it today as well. And I was very active on social media, you know, but I'm not anymore because it's just become such a toxic, ugly place. It's just like no one, Instagram, forget about it. It's just, I don't understand what's happening with Instagram comment section. It's like, there's nothing you put on Instagram that won't be, you know, receive vitriol and stuff.
Controversial.
I just don't get it. It's just a really weird game going there. Twitter is just who can be right? I can even agree with what you say, but I'm going to be right. So I'm going to, you know, do the ad hominems and so on and so forth. So it's just people talking into emptiness, right? There's no conversations happening. And, you know, we mentioned reactivity earlier, and that's all social media is now. It's just a place to farm outrage and to react to stuff. There's no one actually stop. Well, there are people. I'm not going to say no one. You know, a lot of my friends, they stop and think critically and give balanced opinions, but that is not the norm anymore, right? And it's really not. Sad. It's yeah. Sorry, I forgot my train of thought.
I think no, it's okay. I think it gives you a skewed opinion because honestly, I don't think that people, well, I always talk about the silent majority. There are people who assess the cesspool and just go, I'm not even going to comment, even though I don't agree with this trash that's going on here. So they just kind of scroll on by or they just come out altogether. But I think there's a large number, this is just my mind, just, you know, of people who just don't say anything because they don't want to get in the back and forth with someone. They don't feel like fighting over something so stupid. So they just don't engage. And so what you see is the majority of people who are just spewing their venom on social media. And it seems like that's the majority of people. And I've always said that a lot of the things that you think are going on in real life aren't going on in real life. You read comments on social media and you see what people are focused on. You think everybody is outside thinking and feeling the same way, and they're really not. You step away from the computer, you step away from your phone, you go outside and you realize no one's talking about the stuff that they're talking about here. And no one is responding. Well, few people, I should say, are responding in the way that they're responding online. And it's just so sad. And I think earlier on when social media first came about, it really was more of a community. People were starting to have conversations and it was just a fun time to me when it first came out. And now it's just like Game of Thrones. It's just Game of Thrones at this point.
One thing I will say is that people more and more actually, especially in my world, weirdly enough, are having a lot of these conversations. But I think what is important with what you said is that vitriolic, you know, divisive, combative attitude isn't there off social media, whereas on social media it is just that, you know, and that's why, you know, you see that you know, competition rather than dialogue. No one is actually talking anymore. It's a game, right? People want the followers, you get the reach, you get monetized, and so on and so forth. So for me, it's just a little bit boring now, actually. Yeah,
agreed. We're gonna wrap up soon, but I want to know, because you are the head of content for the Equiano. Am I pronouncing that right? Yeah. Equiano project?
Yes, you are.
How did you get involved with that? What was it that drew you to that organization?
So when I started giving my commentary sort of a few years ago, like a lot of other people, I, you know, was very militant, and, you know, that's why I don't even remember some of the things I said. I was like, what? That was a bit deep. You know, I was very one-track minded because I was very angry. You know, the narrative telling me I was meant to feel a certain way, I was meant to think a certain way. And just going back to what we said about conversations happening off social media, it was affecting me off social media with colleagues and friends, you know, that weren't black, that were whites and so on, you know, treating me differently and talking down to me. And I was like, hold on, what's going on? So I was very angry in the beginning. I was very angry. And so I, you know, I had a certain way of communicating. And then obviously that always draws, you know, certain crowds and, you know, people, oh yeah, you can speak for us. And I was like, yeah, but actually, I don't think I like that. It's this or it's that. I have very strong opinions still today, but I am able to at least understand or at least appreciate where someone else is coming from. But I saw with a lot of organizations and platforms, they at least showed to the world that they didn't care. They just wanted to push their own narrative. And I can't be like that because my thoughts are always evolving and I'm always thinking, not necessarily changing, but I need to, I want to know why you think that way. And I felt that wasn't happening with a lot of people I was working with. And thankfully, the Equiano project is exactly what I was looking for, right? They have very specific views, you know, things about, you know, individualism and, you know, universalism, which is who I am to the core, right? I'm not about, you know, your problem is only happening to you because it's you. I'm like, well, actually, have you seen this happening to someone else and seen this happening to someone else and so on and so. So I am about that universalism, and the Equiano project is exactly that. Debate, dialogue, conversation. That is what is interesting to me, not just reacting and giving my thoughts and, you know, saying how it is and facts over feelings. And no, we are humans, right? There are other factors. Even though you believe what you believe, you can't definitely shut out a lot of other things that are happening, whether you think it doesn't, no matter how you think, right? So yeah, that's how I got involved with them, and just been managing all their media and their content and coordinating some events, and I'm having a lot of
nuance to it. And I love the fact that, you know, you say you're always evolving. I don't understand people who just stay stuck, you know, locked in their rigidity that this is what I believe and this is what I'll always believe. I believe that to be the case for certain things. You know, I love God. I think I will always love God. I'm locked in that. But when it comes to my viewpoints on certain things, there's a lot of nuance to it. And I have always been that person who is willing to listen to the other side. I don't know if you've ever gotten this, but on my platform, there are people who say, oh, she's just a conservative. She's just a Candace Owens talking out here. Another Candace Owens. She's a coon. And it's like, I have no issue here. I can entertain your thought process. I don't have to accept it, but I can certainly entertain it. I love to hear different points of view. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. If you stay stuck in this one mindset, in this one mode, that this is how you operate, I feel like I really don't have anything in common with you. There's a lot of nuance to it. And, you know, I remember reaching out when we were trying to set up something for an interview. You know, I said that I had read through some of the comments that people had left on your channel, and I was just so disheartened by it because it was just so nasty. And you don't come across to me as someone who is nasty. You come across as somebody who is very fact-based and very diligent in bringing forth proof of what she's saying, and you seem to say it with good intention and good heart. And so I didn't think that the comments that I saw were appropriate, but that's what happens in social media. And I have to ask you two things. These are going to be the last two things. Number one, do you ever get tired and you just like, I got to get up out of here, live your life, stay over there. I'll live my life. I'll stay over here. And like, what's the worst that you've gotten on social media?
No, I never get tired. And I don't think I will. Physically, maybe, mentally, because as you very well know, a lot of this takes a lot of your energy, a lot of your time researching, especially for people like us who, in fact, I would say more for people like us. It's harder because we don't want to just be one more voice, you know, right? We want to make sure we reach, we help. Precisely. So that means you have to check your words, not because we're afraid, but we want to reach people. We want to we're doing this for a reason. We're not doing this because, I'm going to challenge the narrative because, you know, I'm not afraid, you know. But so
Right.
it's like, that's what I was trying to say. It's much harder now than in the beginning for me, because a thought comes in my head. Yep, I'm gonna say, you guys are lazy, you're criminals, you're beasts, kind of thing. I've never said that, but now I have to think, and I have to go, actually, okay, I think this, but what about that, and how much does this play into it? Okay, so it's mentally taxing, but in terms of the will and the vision and the drive and the passion, I can't get tired of that, because I do believe that there are things that need to be talked about, right? I didn't just start having these conversations on social media. Throughout my life, I was always seen as, the odd one out, or weird, or why are you saying that? Why are you thinking that? So I've always had these kind of brewing in the background, and then it kind of just erupted in 2020, like, oh, so this is why I've always been like this and left out and so on. So I feel like I have, from my own experiences as well, I feel like a lot of people have the similar thoughts. And like you said, they're unsure, because I was unsure. I thought I was weird. I thought I was a sellout. I thought I was a betrayal. I thought, well, maybe it's because I'm African. I'm fake. I'm not real black. But it's none of that. You're just a human being, and as human beings, we're different, right? Wow. It's natural. It's okay. It's normal. So I want to be that fresh breath of fresh air to someone that I receive by watching other people. So I'm not tired. The only thing that does tire me out is what I was mentioning before, and it's having to then second guess. Well, if I say this, am I going to embolden a lot of this racism that I'm seeing, brew up? And that's the thing that's annoying me more than getting hate from people, because I think a lot of that hate comes from fear, right? It comes from discomfort, right? It's uncomfortable. It's very, we have to understand, if you're in a situation where you see nowhere out, and, you have tried in your mind everything, and someone's coming here and telling you, actually, it's your responsibility. And I never say it's your fault. I never say it's your fault you're in that situation. But unfortunately, it's your responsibility to see what you can do to get out of that. If you have cancer, I'm not going to blame you. It's not your fault. But you can't sit down and wallow and die. What can you do? What is your responsibility? You do.
You've got to treat it.
And there's a lot of cancerous things happening in our communities, right? There are a lot of cancerous things happening in our schools, in our homes. What can we do if it's left untreated? Our communities are going to die. So it's not easy to hear that kind of talk. So I understand that. And that's why I don't get offended, if someone tells me I'm not real black or something, because out of all these people that tell me that, there'll be a few people that say, where have you been? I needed that. I've been going crazy. I've been having identity crisis, right? We sometimes say black people have identity crisis because of the white gaze. And no, sometimes we're having identity crisis because other people are telling us we're not black because of something we've said or done. And we're like, oh, hold on. So, right? So
exactly,
there's a lot to talk about, and I definitely don't get tired of that. But to your second question, nothing is the worst I've ever heard. I find a lot of it quite laughable. Like, how are you saying that because I've said how can you say I'm being paid? How can you say I want a white husband or white boyfriend, and I'm happily married, or I'm doing this for money and I'm all right? So all these things are a little bit, and the final point of why it doesn't touch me, and it really doesn't. I'm not saying this because I'm a very honest person. So if it does, it does, but it doesn't get to me, Ro, because my blackness is not a defining part of me. It's not central to my existence, right? It's not the core of my being, right? I am made up of so many things. Blackness for me actually is what people put on me, right? You're a black girl, you're part of the black community. I'm not gonna be, oh no, I'm not, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna say fine.
Oh, I am.
It's not me.
But it's not everything.
I am Ada. I'm made up of so many different things, so many different interests, passions, hobbies. I don't know how to put that in blackness. So for you to tell me I'm not black, it doesn't mean anything to me. It's just words. And that's a reflection of what that means to you and not what it means to me. And so that's why I continue to do what I do and say what I say.
I want you to know that I'm so inspired by you. And I'm not just saying that. Like I said, I sat down and I watched that interview with you and Patience. And I understand now what like the people in my comment section say when they say, "Oh, thank God it's not just me. Somebody else thinks the same way," or they're basically voicing what I feel. And I felt that when I was watching you. And Patience is awesome as well. Like she doesn't play. Like she's about that accountability, which I really, really appreciate. And I'm going to be sure to link her channel as well as yours and your information down below so people can explore your content more. But I am just so grateful and so thankful for the work that you're doing. I hope that this is not the last time that we'll get together.
Definitely.
And I just look forward to seeing you. No, because I really enjoyed this conversation. And I think it's so helpful to so many people. We'll see the usual suspects in the comment section, I'm sure. But I think I can't think about those individuals. Like I said in another video before, some seeds fall on concrete and some fall in soil. And some that fall on concrete are kicked into the soil. So all we can do is do the work, have the conversations, and if you talk enough, maybe something will land, in the soil. So I'm very grateful to you, and I thank you, and I wish you nothing but the best in your journey, because I just see you evolving. You're going to be on a much, much bigger platform. I just know it. So thank you so much, Ada, and thank you to all of my viewers who are tuned in today. I know a lot of you love this type of content, and I really appreciate it. And again, I will link all of Ada's information down below so you can check her out. Thank you so much, Ada.
Thank you. And thank you as well for inviting me on and everything that you do as well, because your videos are so amazing, so entertaining as well. Like it's so bingeable. That's what I love about it. So yeah, it's really cool. Really cool.
Thank you so much, sweetheart. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this conversation today with Ada Akpala, please give it a thumbs up. Leave comments down below, weigh in on the conversation. Also, don't forget to follow Ada on her social media channels. Everything is going to be linked down below. And if you like videos like this, please don't forget to watch my playlist, and you can watch more videos right here and right here. I'll see you next week. Bye. Mwah.